What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. My name is Justin, aka No Good Comics, and you are watching another episode of Comic Collector Origins. This is episode number 40. This is incredible that I've had now 40 different guests on the channel to be able to pick their brain and learn more about the history of how these individuals have gotten into the comic book collecting hobby. So if you're new here, welcome. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. That obviously always helps the channel, and we'll let you guys know every time that I'm live or giving out a new video content. So yeah, Comic Collector Origins, like I said, it's all about the community. I like to interview friends and people that I've met through this awesome comic book community and hobby, and really just find out their origin story, how they got into comics, what got them started, what were some of the first books that they ever read, what were some of the first experiences at maybe like Comic Cons or LCSs that they've ever visited. And really just get that glimpse into where they got started. So it's been an incredible journey. Like I said, episode 40 now. It's really, really cool. So I've had some awesome guests, and I'm excited for the guests that I have on for today, because I've been talking with this dude now for, I don't know, definitely it feels like a year at least. He puts a lot of great content out. He's part of the community, does a lot of great things with the community, and on both Instagram and YouTube. So I'm going to bring my man Hyper.Combo.Comics in the house here, and we'll get started in just a second. Hyper, what's going on, brother?
What's up, Justin? What's up, chat, man? Yeah, you're right. I think it's been almost pretty much a year, at least over a year, that we've been chatting. And yeah, man, happy to be here. We're finally getting this done.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on board. Like we were talking about backstage, I know we've had this plan now for, I don't know, since February, I think February, March of this past year, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to see you, man. And I know you've been doing some things. I know you last year you kicked off like your first video for YouTube of on your own channel, which is awesome. And I know you're working on some more content there. So I will note and say I put all your information in the description below. So anybody watching right now, or if you're catching the replay, make sure that you're subbed up to HyperCombo.Comics, and also find them over on Instagram. Now, Hyper, I know you do a lot of stuff with Newbie as well, right? And Face, you guys are doing a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I would say the majority of my YouTube presence is probably on Newbie's channel than my own channel. I mean, like you said, I am trying to work on producing my own content. Currently, I only have two. It's a running joke on Newbie's channel where I always say that I only have two comic-related videos on my channel. But I do my weekly stuff with Newbie and his team, so that's generally where I'll be hanging out on YouTube for the most part.
Nice.
But IG is probably where I'm more frequently active on my own.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of do the same thing in terms of, they're both great tools for different reasons, and anybody wants to try to reach out to you, I love having conversations in the message system over on Instagram and things like that. Yeah. So it's just convenient. So well, you post a lot of fire, man. You post a lot of fire, and I see. I mean, you're well in the community, because I see you in chats. I see you guesting on other people's channels and things like that. So you always show up, and I appreciate that. And it really shows just the passion that you have for this community and for this hobby, which I love. So
yeah, man, I don't know how to say it, but I just love talking comics, period, and just with everyone and anyone. So like I could easily get lost in a conversation if you sometimes. That's why I know we were talking about the show runtime, so you might have to like reel me in a few times.
All good, man. All good. That's my job here, man. I'm pretty good at keeping it contained. So, but we'll have fun, man. We'll have fun. We'll go off the rails a little bit. And again, this is all about you. So I'm looking forward to it. Before we jump into a little bit of your story and your background, I do want to say a quick hello to the chat, because I see we got some people hanging out here. We got 15 people hanging out at the moment. So we'll highlight a couple here. We got my man Copy 801 in the house. What is going on, Copy? Thanks for hanging out with us today. He says Hyper Origin story had better have crispy bacon in it. There you go. We got my girl Sheena in the house. Station Sheena. We got Ryan Magic Lasso. Thanks for stopping in, Ryan. Appreciate you. We got my man Rod Just the Rican and his comics saying, yo, what's up, Rod? Let's see. We got Fuzzy Dunlop. Hello. What's up, Fuzzy? And we also got Jason Claiming Comics. What's up, Jason? Nice to see you. Been talking a little bit on Instagram with you, my friend. Let's see. We got my man PJ Morris. Paul, what's up, bro? Thanks for stopping in. We also got the kid Brandon, Comics Kings in the
Right.
house. What's up, fam? We got Marvin Wynn in the house. What's going on, Marvin? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in as well. A lot of great faces here. Let's see. We were just talking about Nigel backstage a little bit. Desired
Yeah.
Comics. What's going on, Nige? Thanks for stopping in as well. Repping with the Spine Tick crew. Let's see. I think we're getting everybody. Oh, speaking of, we are just talking about Newbie. What's going on, Newbie? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in here, man. Captain America, what's up? What's up? Thanks for hanging out with us. Mercy Collectibles, all the way from Sweden, my brother.
Oh wow.
All right, all right. Yeah, man, it's like 7 o'clock for him right now, so he's probably just finishing up dinner. We got VP in the house
Nice.
as well. Good to see you, VP. All right, I think we got everybody at the moment. So appreciate everybody who's been who's in the chat. Obviously, feel free to put any questions that you might have for Hyper in the chat, and I'll try to highlight them as we go. And again, if you guys are new here, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate that. And of course, make sure you're following Hyper. Put all his information in the description below, as I just mentioned. And Hyper, as we go through this, feel free to, if you see something in the chat you want to address or anything like that, we can point stuff like that out. And I'll put some random comments up on the screen time to time as well. So,
Yeah.
cool. So other than that, man, let's get into it. So first and foremost, the biggest question is for you. Where did this, or I should say, when did this all begin? How old were you when you first got introduced to comic books, and what was your environment like who was around you at that time?
Okay, so I mean, it's kind of it's a bit of a, I guess, a multi-part thing, because when I first got introduced into comics, it wasn't exactly the time I actually started collecting comics. So this was like probably during the early 90s, when I was like in grade school, and back then the TV shows were off the charts. You had X-Men the animated series, you had Batman the animated series. It was during that time, like, your Saturday morning cartoons. So comic book characters at that time were experiencing quite a boom, like, in the 90s. So the first comic that actually someone gave to me was the Jim Lee X-Men issue number 11.
Nice.
But here's the thing, though. As I mentioned, I wasn't really a collector of comics at the time, and I didn't really preserve things very well. So the copy that I got ended up becoming very ratty at a certain point. Like, basically, I did it pretty much. There was no bag and board for me. I was just like
Right.
rolling it up, basically, to the point that I pretty much had to chuck it because it was kind of off the staples and everything.
Right.
And
That's what we call well loved. It's a well loved comic book.
well-loved comic, but to the point that it shouldn't be well-loved to the point where the cover's pretty much almost detached off the book. But like
Yeah,
I
it's a
said,
little too much love.
yeah. So but fast forward, I guess I'm gonna have to jump probably like a decade or so after,
Yeah.
when I started actually getting into buying comics and all that. I would say probably in 2008, 2009 is when I actually really started collecting comics. And this was probably around and I would say that the movies definitely was a big attribution, because before coming on your show, I was looking at the different years of comic book movies that came out. And I kind of maintained that 2008, in my personal opinion, was probably one of the best years for comic book movies. Because you had Iron Man 1,
I was
which
gonna say,
kicked off
yep, everything.
the
Yep.
MCU. You had probably one of my favorite comic book movies ever, DC or Marvel. You had The Dark Knight, with
Oh,
Heath
that's
Ledger
right.
as Joker.
Yeah.
And you had another book that people didn't even realize was actually based on a comic. You had Wanted, which I also personally enjoyed.
Ooh, I loved Wanted. I absolutely love Wanted. That was a
And
great
you know what
one.
the funny thing is? I saw the movie and then I read the graphic novel after the fact, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, have you read the graphic novel by
I
Mark Millar?
haven't. I haven't.
It it I mean, I'm not surprised that they didn't do a lot of the stuff in the graphic novel in the movie, because I'm sure it would have caused a lot of disruption among casual moviegoers. But yeah, based on the fact that the movies are getting me hyped about these comic characters, I started getting into, okay, let me look into getting into comics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I actually started. At the time, I was just collecting them just for the read. So I'd be buying graphic novels and
Yeah.
floppies at the same time. So and then I was doing that for a bit, but then it kind of came to a situation where I had to move for work, and I pretty much like kind of left the hobby in probably 2010 or something.
Hmm.
And then I only came back in 2018, almost you could say like 7 or 8 years after. Uh, and some of the people in the chat probably heard the story because I may have said this on the Cranky Canadian when I did my origin. But basically, what happened in 2018 was my dad passed away. So it was a
Oh man.
situation where, yeah, it was a situation where basically I was at a point where I kind of needed something to occupy my mind, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So during the time it was around Easter, and somehow I came with the fact that one of my comic shops was having one of those like Easter sales. So I just figured I'll pop in. It's been a while. And then I picked up Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther. They had a couple of issues of that.
Hmm.
And then one thing led to another, and then I just read that, and then I started reading other issues, and then next thing you knew it, I was basically full-blown collecting comics at that point.
Like all
And
in.
then I attended my first Montreal Comic Con that same year, and then I went to the Fan Expo in Toronto, which is like Canada's biggest, I guess you could say, comic convention. And then yeah, man, at that point I've been pretty much um, full on with this hobby. And
That is awesome. Well, and what year was this? That like with your first Comic Con and stuff like that? What around what year?
uh, 2018, and you know what? It's funny
18.
because we said 2008 was, in my opinion, one of the best years for comic book movies. 2018 is actually not that far behind because 2018 you had Avengers Infinity War, you had
Yeah.
Black Panther, and you know what? A movie that kind of I feel is a bit of a dark horse, Ant-Man. It kind of, I mean,
Oh, I love
I'm not,
Ant-Man.
yeah, it's not at the same tier obviously, but it still has a bit of funness for me. So yeah, man,
Absolutely.
2018 also, and I think 2018 also was another reason why and Deadpool. We had Deadpool 2
Oh
in
yeah,
2000.
that's right. That's right.
So yeah,
I also I wanted to mention for 2008, I think it was 2008 was Incredible Hulk came out at that time. It was like right before
yes,
Iron Man. And
yes,
that was with Edward Norton, which
yes.
I personally really enjoyed. I liked Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. I know there was some drama and things like that where he ended up not being obviously not part of it, but I did enjoy when that came out. So well, it's cool, and I'll go back for a second. It's cool to see that you you're sharing this stuff about the films, and I am one for sure of the same degree where this stuff got me into comics. It got me hyped because there was so much going on the big screens, and people were talking about it. My friends were talking about it, that eventually I wanted to explore a little bit more about where the origins of these characters came from and things like that. So for me it took even longer, and I think like you mentioned 2018. I feel like 2018, 2019, like those are some big years for a lot of people in this hobby that just got back into the hobby. I've noticed that even just from other interviews that I've done talking with different people about it, that they've really pointed out like, hey, I got back, and then of course the pandemic hit and even more people jumped into it, over the past year or so. So that also happened, but I definitely see and heard, this wave of people that have come in, and as you're saying, 2018, like really getting into it. You mentioned you went to your Comic-Con and things like that. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what was your experience as a first time goer to a Comic-Con? Was it everything you expected? Like, I'm sure you've seen, footage and commercials before about, how crazy these things can be. But what were your thoughts, your initial thoughts?
Oh yeah, just to clarify, it was my first Montreal Comic Con. I actually went
Ah.
to like a fan expo like a few years ago, but more so as a casual. I wasn't really. I went there more for like the trinkets, like the
Mhm.
Funkos and all that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I had to clarify that. But yeah, honestly, it was. I gotta say, it was a bit overwhelming because the crowds in general, man.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the times, especially when you go to certain like if you're going there for the comics, you'll find that it's a case, and if you're digging through back bins, it's a lot of tight quarters, and you're kind of, you know, and there's other collectors, right, that are kind of doing their thing and digging. So
Sure.
like if you're one of those people that's very claustrophobic, maybe these kind of places aren't for you.
Right.
But I enjoyed it because I could get lost in just digging through long boxes to the point that I kind of felt bad sometimes when my friends that I was going with, they had other plans, and I kind of had to basically tell them, okay, I'll meet you guys after. It's almost like, because like once I'm in the zone about certain things, I kind of, I don't want time to kind of like, yeah, I could get lost in just
Yeah.
back issue diving and all that. So yeah, for those of you that, especially people that, let's say, that are starving for like back issues or comic shops in their town, I would say going to conventions is probably one of the best cures for that, because you're definitely exposed to a lot more that you might not be if you come from like a small town or something. Fortunately, I come from Montreal, so I'm blessed with having different shops locally, but still, I mean, it's always nice to get that bigger exposure.
Yeah, right. No, I totally agree. Newbie wants to know what you dressed up as cosplay.
I don't do. I'm
No
too.
cosplay.
You know, I admire people that do cosplay. I never knock it, but I think I'm a bit, maybe down the, but I'm too self-conscious, to be honest, to do cosplay. I mean, the closest I think I've done to cosplay was I put a Punisher t-shirt, if that counts.
Hey, that can totally count, man. We'll go with that. That's probably a cost efficient costume right there. So
There you go. I just need a trench
depending,
coat.
right. That's not a bad idea at all. I wanted to say real quick hello to Bricks from earlier. He was in here. Also, Swaggle Hoss is in here. Just caught him last night hanging out with Journo's Comics. Good stuff over there. And let's see, there was another question I wanted to scroll. Magic Lasso wanted to know a little bit about your name. He said, what restaurant drive through can I purchase a HyperCombo.Comics at? What is the origin of your username? Hyper. Does he consume a lot of sugar or something?
No.
Yeah, where does Hyper come from?
Yeah,
HyperCombo.
I don't have ADHD or anything like that. Where I got that name Hyper Combo. No, it's actually, so. Those close to me know that I'm very big into, like, I don't do it as much now, but I like, I was a bit of a gamer, and I guess I kind of still am. So one of my favorite genres is fighting games, and one of my favorite games of all time is Street Fighter. So
Nice.
that's why you kind of see like that, the picture in the back.
Yep.
So the name Hyper Combo, like when I was thinking of a name for my IG handle, I was like thinking of different things, and then I thought, okay, in Marvel versus Capcom, when you kind of pull off like this ultra like hyper move, the announcer says Hyper Combo finish. So I'm like, okay, I'll just lift that off and I'll use that as my IG name. And I had to make sure that no one else was using that name, so I didn't want to step on anyone. So yeah, that's how HyperCombo.Comics came out.
Nice. I always love, and I really should include this question more often in my my interviews, but I am curious about where people get their names from. So it's cool that you break that down. And I know you have that's some of the other content that you have on your YouTube channel from a while back, right? Is some video gaming and things like that.
Yeah, I the funny thing is, it's very skewed. I only posted the matches that I won. I didn't post the ones that I lost. So
Boy.
the people that saw my YouTube channel thought probably I'm like this badass tournament player, but I'm very selective on what I was uploading.
That's great. Yeah, man, you got to celebrate the wins. That's all.
Captain America wanted to know what's my favorite character and controller or fight stick. So even though I played arcade, I've always been a controller guy. So yeah, traditional controller. And favorite character, I would say I lean more towards the Muay Thai guys. So Sagat and Adon. Those would be my favorite Street Fighter characters. Yeah.
Nice. I played a lot when I was a kid, and I honestly, I haven't played in a long time, enough to not really remember a lot of the characters and stuff, but I do remember loving it back in the day. There's Desire saying Chun-Li all day.
And actually, circling back to comics, when I told you that I got back, like when I actually started buying comics for the first time in 2008, the first issue that I picked up from an LCS was a Street Fighter comic, because I'm like, okay, let me pick up a Street Fighter. So it wasn't even Marvel or DC. It was actually a Street Fighter comic that actually ended up. That was the first one that I actually purchased.
Nice. Well, it's nice that things can kind of tie in like that from time to time, and whatever's going to help you get more involved, get more into the hobby. I think it's great. And that's what I like about nowadays. I mean, there's just so much to choose from, different genres and things like that for modern day comics, that it really I feel like the hobby is for everybody, and anyone can find anything that they really enjoy.
For sure.
Rage is saying Ken all day.
Yeah. Too
uh,
many. There's too many Ken and Ryu players online. That's my own, because those are like the go-to characters for a lot of
right,
people.
right. I love it. Let's see, Swaggle says, how hype would be, or how hype would you be if the Street Fighter cinematic universe? Oh, if they made that.
I'm holding out hope just because of the fervor that Mortal Kombat got with its resurgence. I'm holding out hope that Street Fighter kind of gets that same love. So yeah,
Totally,
fingers crossed for that.
totally doable, man.
Right now we only have the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and look, I own that on Blu-ray, and that's like a guilty pleasure movie for me. But that's all we pretty much have our hat to hang on for Street Fighter movies.
There you go. Take what you
So
can get, man.
yeah,
So going back to kind of the beginning and your origin, and even again, even before the 2008 stuff, when you were first introduced to comics and just reading, you weren't even collecting,
hmm
who was in your life at the time that might have really showed you some of these things, or did you have any friends at that time that you could at least talk to about the comics or about the characters?
it's funny because even to this day, like in my close circle of friends, I'm like one of the only like one or two guys that actually reads comics. So it's almost like a lot of the stuff I kind of had to get info like outside my circle.
Right,
I was kind of like, and I guess that was like my uniqueness in my circle of friends. Like I was like known as like one of the comic guys, I guess.
right.
So yeah, I have a close buddy of mine who's into comics, and he actually we pretty much collected around the same time because but yeah, other than that, I would say that I don't have that many people within like locally, especially that are actually well. That's a lie. I've met people locally after the fact, but
After,
initially,
right.
yeah, initially it wasn't the case.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm always curious about that, and if there was any influence played by family members or friends or relatives, things like that, that kind of came into your life. So, I mean, and again, that's another kind of testament to this hobby is that it can be for someone who might not have those influences involved, and you can still enjoy it and still have fun either way. So, I mean,
yeah.
and then the other like question I'd like to ask too is, when did you when did you create your Instagram account? I assume Instagram came before your YouTube stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, what made you want to, start sharing comic books online and things like that?
Um, I mean, so I initially had a personal IG account and Facebook, and I was just posting, random stuff here and there. And then I saw other people and then I saw people posting stuff on IG with comics, and I think that's probably what kind of pushed me into doing my own IG
Hmm.
comic channel. And also, this was around that time, and I started opening up my IG channel once I was more fully into the hobby, and
Okay.
once I started, following different, I guess, content creators and
Hmm.
all that. So that would probably be what kind of pushed me into getting um, an IG account specifically for comics. And truth be told, I haven't posted my personal account in forever. My personal account it is there, but like
Yeah.
I haven't touched it in a long time. Um,
I'm the same way. I have a personal account. I used to be on that all the time. I used to use it for business. I used to use it for a bunch of other things. And I've slowly just like completely, like I'll go into it once in a while and just take a quick glance, but otherwise I'm all wrapped up in my comic book, account, because that's basically where I live.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. I mean, and honestly, I thought I would probably get burned out by it, but honestly, I always enjoy looking at other people's feeds and posting my own finds and all that, and getting
yeah,
feedback. So it's still fun for me to kind of interact on IG. So yeah, man,
totally.
it's a must.
And what year would you say, or about, when was it that you created this comic book focused Instagram account?
So probably around at the time that I got back into the hobby. So actually, maybe no, I would say maybe like a 6 months or a year after. So I would say 2019, but I would say that I really got full blown into it last year. Um,
Okay.
right around the time when COVID was kind of taking shape,
Yeah,
and a lot of people were getting locked down, and like us included, obviously. So
sure.
I think that's when I really started committing to posting more, because before I had a IG comic content, but I would probably post like once a week, maybe
Yeah.
once or 2 weeks, and then it was probably last year was when I actually started posting a bit more regularly, and that's when I actually started interacting with more people within the community. and
Right.
and and by virtue ended up getting introduced to YouTube.
Yeah,
So
it's cool how that kind of carries you into the next thing, right? It's like and you start to recognize, a lot of people are on all these different platforms. You start recognizing the same faces, the same names and things like that. Did you know when you first created Hyper Combo
mhm.
as an Instagram account, did you know that there was this comic book community out there? Like, were you aware of this?
I always thought of it like I mean I guess I was aware of it, but I always felt like it was one of those things that um like it's there, but it's probably like how can I say, now that I'm like more fully involved in it, I don't think that I'd be interacting with these people as much as I am. Like, because first of all, I guess when I started out my IG, I didn't really think I brought much to the table in terms of like knowledge and know-how and all that. Because I was just literally just posting books for the sake of posting books.
Sure.
It's only when people started, you know, commenting on my stuff and then I was messaging them, then I realized, okay, these people really, are cool and like, that we could easily like hang out with on social media and all that. So yeah, but before that, it was very much like, okay, I'm posting my books. I'm just admiring these people's books, and then that was pretty much it.
Right.
Like
Yeah, you didn't really take the time yet to really get to know people until later.
no, I mean the only channels I was really following were like the big channels, like I think because they were on my YouTube, like like when you pop up YouTube on like on
The
your app, it would be
browser.
like
Mhm.
yeah, it would be like Reggie Collects, like like some of those main. It's only when I started interacting with some of the community then I started you know, paying attention to other channels like yours, like No Good Comics, Spine Ticks, Pressable
Mhm.
Defects, East
Yeah.
Meets West, like, the list goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm right there with you. It definitely was something for me that like, I had no idea what I was getting into. I was like, I have these cool comics. They look cool. So let me take pictures of them and just share them with the world. And maybe people will, give me a thumbs up. I remember telling my girlfriend, like, man, it'd be so cool if I could ever have 100 followers on my Instagram page. That would just be amazing.
Oh,
And,
dude,
uh,
yeah.
and that was like my goal for like, just general, like if I could ever get to 100, that'd be awesome. And I think I hit 100 in like the first like couple weeks. I'm like, holy crap. Like this is like, it happened all so quickly.
I mean,
Um,
and this is not to brag, but just to show how it clearly helps when you're very involved in the community. For almost 2 years, I would say almost 2 to 3 years, my IG comic channel was probably hovering around 150 followers, and I thought, okay, that's kind of where I am. 150, that's probably going to be my niche. Ever since last year, when I told you I started getting full blown into it and I started reaching out to people,
yeah.
like in less than a year, like my follow went up to like over 1,000. And again, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that the growth just kind of speaks for itself. That because
Totally.
I was showing love to the community, they were showing love back to me, and then
Mhm.
and it wasn't like so much a selfish thing. Like obviously, um, they appreciate my content, and I always follow back, and then I kind of interact because I think it's important to kind of always keep that dialogue open with like with the community, and
Mhm.
they'll reciprocate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is right on point where I feel like it's the more you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. And I guess you can apply that to anything in life, or
Mhm.
whatever you're trying to accomplish. But like you said, the moment you started to really focus in on like supporting other people and actually having these conversations and getting to know people and helping other people who might ask you questions, like it all kind of comes back around. Where more people start, giving you their time of day because you started giving them your time of day.
Yeah,
So
and the thing is, it's got to be organic. Like I wasn't like hitting up people or following people for the sake of getting a follow. I generally would
right.
hit up people because I was interested in stuff that they were posting, or they would
Yep.
hit me up because they wanted to have a dialogue. And then that kind of stuff just like the followers, I kind of like I used to be all about the followers and the likes. I kind of basically kind of put that on the back seat, and I kind of at this point I just let the chips fall where they may, and I just post my contents, you know, show
Mhm.
love to those that I actually who I like when they're posting something, and then that's kind of I think the best approach.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I mean, it can be easy to get caught up in the numbers and stuff, but look, at the end of the day, we're doing this because we love doing it. We're here to have fun. We're here to meet new people who share the same passions that we have, and that's what's to me at least is most important. And it sounds like to you as well. So it's like, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing,
Yeah.
I like what you're saying. Just let the chips fall where they may. Like I said, it can easily be, you can get caught up pretty easily in the numbers sometimes, and sometimes it can ruin your experience, otherwise. So it's good that you
Mhm.
have that kind of mindset, when you approach this hobby. I want to say a quick hello here. We had a couple people come in. Michael Yas at Hyper Combo.
He's actually the guy that I was talking about. That one of my close friends that actually was collecting simultaneously with me when I got back in the
Oh,
hobby. So he's actually
okay.
a local from Montreal. So yeah.
That's what's up. Well, thanks, Michael, for stopping in, man. Appreciate you. We also had my man Alan here, climbing comics, saying he just got in for the second half. Man, I appreciate you taking any time, man, to swing by. So thank you, Alan. Reno's Comics also here. What's up? What's up? Appreciate you stopping in as well. And guys, remember, hit that thumbs up and subscribe to Hyper if you haven't already. His information is in the description below for YouTube and Instagram. What is Lasso here saying? Between No Good Comics, Hyper Combo, Newbie, which one do you think knows the most about Ambush Bug?
So yeah, so the joke behind this is because on Newbie's show, I think somebody brought up Ambush Bug, and I had no idea what this Ambush Bug character was like. Do you know Ambush Bug?
No.
Okay, so I'm not the only one. So basically, I was ridiculed for it on air because I didn't know who
Oh
this
no.
Ambush Bug character. It's like some, and then I looked him up, and I'm like, no wonder I didn't know him. It's like basically it's like an insect that looks like Superman, kind of.
Okay.
So that's why Magic Lasso has fun with me on that. So.
That's great. Thanks, Lasso. Thanks for that. There he is, Ambush Bug. So all right, let's talk a little bit about some comic books. First of all, what are you reading some books right now? What are your current reads within the hobby? Are you reading current, new comics or older stuff, or a combination of both?
I try to dabble in both older and new stuff because I still have like a pull list. I have a bit of everything, Marvel, DC, and indie. I kind of find that like lately I've been gravitating a lot towards indie. I know you hear people say that quite often, but it's true though.
Yeah, they're
Indies are
killing it.
making a comeback, yeah. Specifically, I find that horror indies, and I'm not even a big horror movie guy myself, but
Yeah.
I find that horror indie comics seem to really catch my interest. I mean, I think right off the bat, something is killing the children. I mean, that's I'm glad I got on that train early.
Yeah.
You've seen how those issues are right now.
Oh, it's insane, man. Yeah, insane. It's a great read too. Great
It's a
read.
great read, yeah. So something is killing the children. And then like even like Vault Comics, it's the plot. I was reading that. One comic that I've been telling my friends about that I really enjoyed, and I'm noticing that it's getting a bit more fervor right now, I guess you could say, because it's coming with a second volume, is We Live by Aftershock.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
I've heard good things.
yeah, it's the first volume only had 5 issues,
Mhm.
but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think there's even a free comic book day issue that's coming out this year. I guess to bridge between volume 2 and volume 1. And anyone that I talk to about that those 5 issues, I tell them, definitely get on Relive. And Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs was another one that I was really
Yes.
into. And actually, there's a book that I actually picked up mainly because you were talking about it.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and this is a series that I think I knew it had a potential of being good based on who was writing it, Tom Taylor, but I was hearing a lot of good things. But then you kind of put it over the top for me when you told me that this was an emotional read for you. And I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Nightwing. Yep.
Nightwing. So I missed out on the first print because it sold out. So I ended up getting the cover B, like which is in the mail. But I did pick up the second print and I read it. And dude, I'm sold. It's probably going to
Right.
be on. I think afterwards I told my shop to put it on my pull list because
Good.
DC I kind of, other than Batman and some of the other mainstays, I've been kind of DC. I don't know. I kind of been a bit sour on with their offerings lately, but no
Mhm.
man, Nightwing, sorry, has been the bomb. So
Yeah, man. I think you're not alone there with saying that about DC. That for a while, at least over the past couple of years. I know for myself, I had totally been off of DC. mainly for the reason of I was so focused and wrapped up in Marvel and X-Men. Like there was just so much to kind of put my time into that I just felt like I was being too stretched otherwise, and I just couldn't keep track of the different universes and things like that. But you know, as of recently, and as you mentioned that I got you into Nightwing, I've recently kind of taken to that and wanted to re-explore a lot of DC stuff, and a lot of it's because these are like a reboot. A lot of this is relaunching things
Yeah.
with new writers, new creators, new artists, to kind of give this new spice. And so far, from what I've heard and from what I've personally read, I mean, I think DC is putting out some of the best stuff right now, which is kind of crazy because I never consider myself like a DC person, and I'll tell you this too: I've never read Nightwing before in my life, never read Nightwing up until this issue. I just heard a lot of people talking about giving it a shot. Tom Taylor, I've always heard good things about Tom Taylor, so that was where it kind of gave me the hint of like, okay, let me give this a shot. Literally read it. Teared up because it's super emotional, and if you can apply that to your life in some ways, it's a heavy read. So and there you go. Jason just said Justin sold me on Nightwing too. Yeah, everybody. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that I feel like I've really hyped this up. Anyone jumping on right now, they're probably like, oh, there goes Justin talking about Nightwing again. Come to the dark side. Copy says, yeah. So it's I think it's great. I think it's great that you gave it a shot. You're exploring more. You're putting it on your pull list right now, and that's been my viewpoint now. Is like I don't want to necessarily limit myself to anything because I know there's great stuff in all these different genres, all these different publishers. So I'm trying to just be as open as possible with it and just kind of discovering stuff as I go, and obviously taking some recommendations if people have recommendations and things like that. So I'm glad to hear that you gave it a shot. It's on your pull list now. Issue 79 just came out, I think, a week and a half ago, and that was also very good. So the artwork and everything. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. That's cool. That's very cool.
But see, this is exactly to my point that it's important to kind of interact with people because there's no way that one person can have knowledge on everything that's going on in the industry. So, like you said, the fact that I kind of got like the way that you were very expressive about that issue kind of made me okay. Like you didn't just say yeah, and I liked it, but you're really you really tried to sell it. It's almost as if I thought you wrote the book or something.
Hey, and that's saying something, right? When somebody who didn't even have work to do with it is that adamant about something.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Nigel saying DC is positioning cells for a comeback. Yeah, I mean the reboots are definitely, I think, a big part of that. So Copy says people don't give DC a fair shake. Yes, they screwed up on some fronts. However, they have been putting out good stuff for a long time. You just need to know where to look. And I think that's fair.
I think copyrights for DC.
He might. He's secretly like the CEO of the company. That's great. And Alan here says too, yeah, I got a lot of good recommendations from you guys. Yeah, man. Yeah, and I'm always encouraging other people to recommend stuff to me because I certainly am not able to read all of it, but especially older stuff. I'm trying to go back, like you were saying, Hyper, that you try to balance it and read some new stuff. You're reading some old stuff as well, so I think it's good to kind of be well rounded like that.
Exactly.
So talking about some comic books, do you have a comic book or two you want to show off here? Something that means something special to you?
Okay, so I mean, I told you earlier on that my first comic I ever got was X-Men 11. It was a ratty copy, right? So I kind of I almost felt like I had to right that wrong.
Yeah.
So basically, when I got back in the hobby, I hit up a dude on Kijiji, which is like, for you Americans, Kijiji is basically like Craigslist in Canada.
Okay.
So he was like offloading a lot of his collection, and he was selling like the first 11 or 12 issues of the Jim Lee X-Men. So obviously issue 11 was in it. So I grabbed it, and then I actually got it signed by Jim Lee.
Whoa.
Fan Expo.
Oh my gosh, and a 9.8, dude.
9.8. Okay, so there's a funny story about this, and I actually shared this with Roger and Cranky Canadian. There's 3 signatures on this book. Jim Lee, Alex Sinclair, and Scott Williams. So what happened was when I initially went for the Jim Lee signing at Fan Expo, the CGC facilitators were like, "Oh, Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair are going to be at the expo because they collaborated with Jim Lee on other stuff like Batman and other issues." So I'm like, because I know that Scott Williams worked on this issue, but not Alex Sinclair. So I told the facilitators, just give me Scott Williams' signature and Jim Lee, and that's it. They went out and got all 3 signatures. So basically, you have Alex Sinclair signing a book that he wasn't even involved in.
My gosh.
And I kind of and you know what, Swaggle House gave an emoji. I actually saw one of Swaggle House's videos recently where he actually highlighted this book that he even picked up. And so I forgot to mention message Swaggle House about it. But the funny thing is, when Alex Sinclair got this issue, and I was asking Roger this, did it not cross his mind that maybe he should have told the facilitators, I didn't work on this book. Like, he's not Stan Lee that he should be signing books that he's
Right.
not involved in. So,
Well, I wonder if he got paid for that, and if he did, then he's probably thinking, all right, whatever, I'll just take the money and
oh, but Justin. So the thing is, even though I got that one copy, whenever I find it in the wild, I always keep grabbing. This is one of those books that I keep grabbing
Oh
multiple.
yeah,
Whenever I find it, I grab it.
that's
And
awesome.
and this is personal bias to me, but like Jim Lee's one of I would say he's my top favorite artist, and that cover to me is by far my favorite Jim Lee cover. I guess for the personal connection to it, and I just love
Sure.
that badass, like that badass '90s X-Men team up with Wolverine in the front.
Heck yeah, man. Absolutely. It's a stunning cover. And like you said, it's special to you because that's something that really introduced you to the hobby. It's something that really pulled you in.
Yeah,
The fact that you got those signatures too is just so dope, man. So kudos to you, man. Very cool stuff. And dude, I would pick them up anytime I could too. You know.
and the thing is, what's great about that book is there's no key like moments in that book, so it's a very
Mm.
affordable issue. So it works on
Yeah.
my part. It's not like I have to pay an arm and a leg for these issues.
Right.
They're very much at cover price. Although I have been seeing a bit of a price increase on these books, and Swaggle also mentioned it on his channel. I don't know if it's because mutants in general are getting a bit of an uptick in their value, but I have noticed that these books have been slowly heating up.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to get my copies.
Absolutely.
I'll show you another book. This one,
Ooh,
ASM 300. So
very nice.
the significance of this book is this is the first book that I actually got around the idea of spending 3 figures for, because I've always been
Oh,
cause I've always been very thrifty with my comic purchases, like
yeah.
and I pride myself that, like, Justin, you know how I defend my TV title on those on
Yep.
like that whole title is based on finding like gems in back issue bins. So like my top 3 characters of all time are like my anti-heroes, like on the Marvel side, Wolverine, Punisher, and Venom.
Hmm.
Of the 3, obviously Venom's first appearance was the most affordable at the time. This was 2019 or 18 when I bought this. I don't know how to explain it, but like whenever you make like your first purchase that's like over $100 for something, like once I pull the trigger, it's like like you have second thoughts because you've never
Oh
done this
yeah.
before, and
Oh yeah.
and then you kind of second guess yourself if I made the right move, because I'm not used to spending that much money.
Right.
I mean, fast forward 3 years later, and I'm seeing how much this book is going for, and I'm kind of glad I pulled the trigger on this at the time. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, man, it's so
That
so so that's another issue that's near and dear.
I love it, man. I love it. And it's cool that you put that to that history of what, you crossing that line, spending a little bit more than you've done before. And that's a moment in history for you. That's, again, it's personal. And I want to go back and kind of think about when was it that I crossed that line for myself? Because I've definitely been in that your same shoes as you, trying to be, you want to be smart about what you're buying and make sure that it's worth, to you, that it's worth it. And obviously that's a very special book in general, and a good grab looking back now at how much this thing's, going for within the market.
And keep in mind, I think the environment also kind of played into the fact, because I told you before how in my circle of friends, I'm like one or two that's actually into comics. So for my other friends, the thought of spending that much on a single issue, it's like they can't compute it. Like once I was at a Christmas function, and then we were just talking about comics, and someone's like, "Yeah, do you see like that Deadpool first appearance was like going for like 3 4," and then someone's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't spend that much money," and then I'm like, I'm just kind of like I'm just like in the corner, like, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like, yeah, who would do that? Not me. Anyways,
so
yeah,
like
dude, no, that's
let's talk about something else. Yeah.
right, exactly. The book I do remember when I was first getting into it, and I my girlfriend was with me when we went to the comic shop, is actually this She-Hulk number one.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
9.6, but I didn't buy it. I bought it raw over at Zap Comics, and that thing was $30.
Wow.
And yeah, and I remember my girlfriend was with me. I I spent money on it, bought $30, and I remember she looked at me and she's like, "Wait, you're gonna buy it? You're gonna buy that thing for $30?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a key book. It's a book I wanted. It's something it'd be cool to have." And she's like, "Wow." She's like, "You're just looking at it." I'm like, yeah, no. And I remember like thinking about it. I was gonna put it back, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. And so I kept it, and I mean, I bought it, and obviously now we can look
Now,
back
yeah.
and be like, good purchase, right? But even for me, for that was like early. That was like one of my first books where I spent, where to me is just a lot of money. $30. It's like, damn, like that's tank of gas and a few other things at that point.
Yeah, it's um yeah, it's just it's only once now. The danger is obviously don't get too comfortable in
Right.
that zone, because then you'll get into that place where you're spending more than you should. So
Oh
so
yeah, man.
you kind of have to also know when to kind of reel it in at a certain point.
Oh, totally. I mean, once you cross that line, you do get to, it's easy to get that mentality of like, "Oh, I spent $100 before. Oh, I spent 200 before. Like,
Yeah.
like what's another two or whatever. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like you're saying, be careful. It's definitely dangerous.
Hmm.
Swaggle House says, yeah, the first 3-figure book was hard for me to do. Yeah. She-Hulk smashed that like button. Thanks for that, Lasso. Jason saying good old Zap Comics. Yeah, Zap's always got the good stuff. Let's see. Fapton says I bought an ASM 361 CGC 9.8 for
Nice.
675 last year, and I was kicking myself because I thought I overpaid. Yeah, and there you go. It's such a roller coaster of emotions, because you're just like you said, sometimes you pull the trigger and you
Hmm.
immediately feel like, oh God, what did I just do? Like what?
Yeah.
Like like and at least we said to ourselves, like, at least these are things that we can, if we, God forbid, we need to get that money back, like we do have the option where we can sell it and get at least a majority of that money back.
Yeah.
um
But the thing is, I think, I mean, I always try to put myself in a position that if I mean, I barely sell my comics, but for me, I want to be in a position that I want to, when I sell my comics, it's out of choice, not out of necessity.
yes,
Like,
yes.
like if I'm at a point where I'm spending comics to the point where I'm doing it now, where I need to necessitate the hobby, I kind of find that, okay, maybe I'm not doing it right. Like, it should be to the point where, like, when I put my books, I should be able to stash it away and not have to think about when to offload it, because I need the
Right.
money.
Yeah,
I
the
just find that,
bills and things like
yeah,
that.
because at that point
Yeah,
you're gonna I feel that you'll end up souring on the hobby in general.
totally. No, absolutely. And that's one thing I try to keep in mind for myself is where all this started. Is it's a hobby. It's a hobby for me. It's not a business for me.
Mhm.
I'm not depending on it. I have my bills paid. I have food on the table. Like all that obviously is prioritized. My family comes first, all that stuff. And then, any light extraness is what this hobby, is what it's for. So, but you're right.
Exactly.
You can get caught up, and it can definitely put a sour experience for you if you get yourself especially if you get yourself in a bad situation, where it becomes more about life. It's like, let's see. Mercy says, I love those stories. I think everybody has one. Great to know which book that was the gateway book to heavier stuff. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's the gateway purchase right there.
Yeah, it
Um,
definitely was.
we got Eric in the house, Azor's Tiger, the
Ours.
Spine Ticks. What's up, brother? My man Michael's in here too. He said, all jokes aside, 3 figures is easy. 4 makes me take a second look.
I
Yeah,
haven't crossed that threshold yet. I haven't taken that leap yet.
I have. And it
So,
definitely makes you take a second look.
so you know what? I would probably say the only point I'd probably ever take that 4-figure leap is through reselling my books. Because honestly, I don't know if I would be like, at this point, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable spending like my own paycheck for it. I'd probably feel more comfortable if I was to sell off my current collection or certain books
Totally.
to fund that 4-figure grill.
Sure.
That's probably, where
Absolutely. And a lot of people, are managed to be able to do that with their collection. And if you can pull that off, more to you. Absolutely. It's definitely, yeah, again, at the end of the day, you want to be able to spend within your means. And if you are out of your, if it's above your comfort zone, then it's something that, should probably be reconsidered, or, you know, at least rethought about. Desire says, I definitely do not like selling books, even with me having a sales page. Yeah, no, same
It's
here.
tough.
I
It's tough. Yeah,
yeah,
especially if you only have like one copy of that book. Like if you have doubles, it's a bit easier. But like, yeah,
yep,
I agree. Like just because it's just part of my collection, right?
yep,
So
yeah.
y-
I mean, they all mean something to you in some way,
yeah,
shape, or form. Um, Azos, congrats, dude, congrats yesterday. Um, crazy how we're in the same circles. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're referencing there, but
I'm not sure.
um, Sheena. Yeah. So, and there you go. Fapton saying to trade up. It's a great
Exactly.
way to go
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I always like to ask this question, and I know we're coming up on the hour, but we'll get these last couple questions in. We'll get into the fun,
Yeah.
rapid stuff too. And reminder, guys, if you're not following Hyper, I put all the information in the description below. Whether you're watching this replay or if you're here live, appreciate you guys. We got 18 people in here right now, by the way. Thank you all for taking some time out of your day to hang out with me and Hyper here.
Appreciate it.
So Hyper, for you, what is the big picture, at least right now? Because I know goals change, but like, what is the
Yeah.
goal for you for all these books that you have in your collection right now? As you get older, do you plan to one day sell everything? Do you plan to pass them down to, kids or family members, or do you plan to take these things to the grave with you? What is kind of the big picture for you at the moment?
I don't foresee myself taking them to the grave because I kind of find that they're better off with someone else at
Sure.
that point. Um, if I were to have kids, maybe that would be like pass it along. I mean, I'd first have to see if they're actually into comics, obviously, before. Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to force the hobby on them, but yeah, I mean, I think that would be option one if that presents itself. But honestly, um, if I get to that point where I feel that I've kind of, I guess I'm at that tail end, I'll probably end up probably offloading most of my collection, mainly, and probably sticking with more like, I guess the grills, because right now I have a steady pull list,
Mhm.
and currently I'm already trying to scale back on that pull list because there's a few books on the horizon that I'm kind of looking at that, like we talked about, four-figure books, right?
Right.
That I realized that in order to get there, I kind of have to make certain changes in the way I'm collecting. So
Sure.
be it cutting back on current comics, also offloading and just making space. Because one thing, obviously, like for me, the monetary side, like I kind of feel like I have a good handle in terms of how I'm spending comics right now. But for me, it's a space because space is a very finite thing. I know that you make that joke that like the solution is get a bigger house.
There you go. Just buy a house, dude. Buy a bigger one.
But yeah, but I mean, honestly, I have to start coming to the realization that I'm gonna have to start kind of reevaluating my collection and basically
Mhm.
getting rid of some of the stuff that I kind of feel have maxed out its usefulness for me, or that I don't really have much of an enjoyment in keeping. Because I'll be honest, there are certain books that maybe I bought that probably I wasn't a fan of, but I'm just keeping them just cause. So I'm
Right.
gonna have to start getting rid of those, just kind of make room. And I think Swaggle House mentioned it's almost like you're doing a spring cleaning, I guess, with your collection.
Yeah.
So
Kind of cleaning it out.
yeah,
Um, he was just saying here, I think selling is a necessity to dive into that four-figure range,
yeah.
unless you got, Bezos pockets. Yeah.
And the thing is, even aside from Grail books, even new comic book day issues like Diamond and Lunar, they produce hundreds of books on a weekly basis. Unless you have deep pockets, there's no way you could collect everything and anything.
Right.
You kind of have to be. You have to come to the fact that realization that you're gonna have to be very selective on what you pick.
Yeah.
Um, and there's no shame in that. Just if you really want to read in other stories, you could always find other means like digital or go into your
Yep.
library and other you know
Hmm.
means. So
By trades or
yeah,
omnibus or things like that.
exactly.
There are definitely ways around that. Yeah, totally agree there. And look, I'm having that problem right now with space myself. And I love that you're talking about this whole coming to a realization, because that's something for me too, where I'm just like, and maybe we need to talk more about this Hyper, where we're like, I'm going to come to you and just be like, hey man, just tell me to slow down on comics. You got to just, be my therapist, back and forth
Yeah,
with some of these topics. Cause it's like, we're all going through it. We're all going to different degrees, different levels of this stuff. But I do think the idea of running out of space is something that not a lot of people talk about.
Mhm.
And I'm always curious. I see a lot of people that post books that they're buying every week, 10 to 20 new books, just new, from new comic book day. And then on top of that, they're going on the weekends and buying old comic books. And I'm just like that adds up on space. That literally adds up in space. Yeah.
That, that's
Yeah,
that's
man.
that's me
Totally.
right
No,
there.
it's you're not alone, man. It's and I was doing that for a very long time, and even now, I still for new books, I still buy a lot of new books, and I'll occasionally buy the duplicate, right? I buy the double for something if I feel like that's something I want two of, and it just takes up even more space. So it is something to consider, and like you said, come to the realization of like, what am I going to do? Because if I keep this up for 2 more years, or however many more years that you've been collecting, like, do I have room to literally double what I have now? And if not, and then also depends like who you're with, who you live with. Like, my girlfriend's not crazy about me having all these random white boxes all around, stacked up. It's not the prettiest thing to look at per se either, So,
Yeah.
these are all things to kind of consider as you grow and as you get deeper into the hobby. But, so, and I want to ask you this too, because this is part of the segment I always like to bring up as we're kind of talking about some advice and things like that, things to consider when you're collecting, whether you're new or old. I always like to bring up the fact that there are new collectors coming into this hobby every day, new readers coming in every day, new people, new fans of the films and shows and everything else. If you had somebody come up to you and ask, and you found out, they were just considering getting into this hobby for the first time, whether that's reading or collecting or just whatever, however they want to approach it, what single piece of advice would you give to that person who's on the fence of getting into this hobby?
Budget, plain and simple. Because the thing is, I think this applies more so for people that are buying comics on a weekly basis as opposed to
Mhm.
someone that's buying it like once in a while. Because at that point, it's almost become a part of your weekly expenditure along with gas, food, and everything else. Um,
Yep.
like even for me, like I always try to like when I put pen to paper on what I'm pulling on a weekly basis, and it
Mhm.
kind of like because it's gonna sound a bit anal, but I kind of have like an Excel where I kind of I track my uh the books I'm currently pulling, and then like I also budget like okay, this is how much I'm spending.
That's
And
good.
the thing is, I also kind of break it down. Okay, these are the books that basically it's like non-negotiable in terms of I won't be dropping these on my pull list. And then these are the books that are kind of like on that shaky ground thing where okay,
Maybe,
like
maybe not. Yeah.
yeah, you're kind of like on the hot seat. And then there's certain books that are kind of like in the middle. So it's like I kind of feel like when you kind of put that in, like when you actually have it visibly shown, you'll get a better idea of okay, this is where my money's going to comics. And then if you have aspirations or goal of getting key books and all that, you'll kind of see because you don't want to be the dude that's like, basically living off of mac and cheese to spend on because you want to afford the grill. Like
Right.
might as well cut it off on the actual current titles that you're pulling, right?
Yeah.
So I think budgeting and it might seem a bit tedious, but honestly it might help you come to a realization of how much you're spending that you might not be aware of on it, especially
Yeah.
when you break it down like on a monthly and annual basis.
Yeah, no, 100%. Fable says guilty. Yeah, you're right. It's something that can easily be lost track of if you are not paying attention to that kind of stuff. And I am certainly guilty of that from time to time, and to where I need to take a step back and write these things out. And I like that you bring up like an Excel sheet, like you're organized and you're like really taking a look from a high standpoint of like what's important to me right now. What is this like? This next issue better be good, or else I'm dropping this title. And what are some things where you're just like, why am I buying this again? Like I'm totally guilty of that. And look, then there's like cover buys and things like that. It happens all the time. So I think that's to go back to like your main point of like the idea of budgeting. I think that's a huge tip for anybody who's, whether you are brand new or whether you've been in this hobby for a long time and maybe you haven't been budgeting in the past. I think these are definitely things to consider, at least consider, when you are going about your hobby. Now, obviously, if you're comfortable with the money and all that, then, kudos to you. But, it definitely can be eye opening and can help you. It can guide you in a way that's like, okay, hey, I need to reassess some things here. And especially, as you said, if it's affecting your life,
Mm.
if you can't have like a great meal because, you're putting it towards something else, and you're like, PB and J's all every week, or whatever, like not
That should
shoot out
yeah,
PB
yeah.
and J's. I do like PB and J's, but I'm just saying, if you want to mix it up and have a different meal once in a while, if the comic book stuff's affecting it, it's
Basically
something that you
like
might want to consider.
like the hobby should enhance your quality of life. It shouldn't be a hindrance
Right.
to it. Like if you're getting to the point where grills are basically making you compromise on the necessities of life, and you can't go out with your friends because you spent this much on a comic book, I kind of feel like you're kind of doing something wrong, because you're
Yep.
almost basically at that point, like I said, you're gonna end up resenting the hobby because of it. And look, I found out these lessons the hard way. Like this whole budgeting thing, it didn't come to me right away. Like I think this was last summer. You know when the whole if you're following Venom, the whole Codex and virus thing came out. I
Oh yeah.
was put it this way, I spent a lot on the store exclusives to the point where I kind of went above my
Your
comfort zone.
budget. Yeah.
And, and, and,
That's all
and,
right. That happens.
dude, I'm not even a big store exclusive guy, but it's one of those things. Like sometimes you take some of those hard bumps and lessons, and you just kind of live and learn.
Totally.
I kind of appreciate that time because it kind of made me realize, okay, I kind of did this wrong. And sometimes you could say as much as you want, but some people learn things the hard way. I kind of feel I'm like that. Sometimes it's those hard lessons that are taught. And the thing is, you don't want to go up to your budget, because let's say there's a book that your shop puts up on the wall that, oh shoot, you got to have it, but you just spent all your comic budget on the,
Right.
like, you kind of have to,
You
yeah,
want to have that reserve a little bit,
exactly,
especially if it's a deal, right? If you come, even in a bin or something, if you find a deal, something mispriced, or just just a little cheaper than fair market value, you want to be able to have some funds to take advantage of that, if the opportunity ever comes. So
exactly.
yeah, great points, altogether. This is a great conversation on many levels, man. I have to say, I saw Soph was making a joke before, said I thought this was a family friendly show. Talking comic finances while family is in the room is X-rated. Yeah, no, man. It's like these are things that we're all dealing with at different degrees, right?
And the
So
hobby's not getting cheaper. Like
no,
I don't know if you noticed, but DC actually increased their prices. Like gone are the days when books are $1, $1.25. Look, like I pulled Batman, and now Batman issues are like $4.99 US.
I
So,
know.
so you kind of have to, like, especially if you're doing physical instead of digital, you have no choice but to start budgeting, because these things are getting more and more expensive.
Yep, agreed. Fuzzy says, "Great advice. I'm a complete beginner to the comic game. It's a lot to take in and learn and get used to, but great advice. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, and it's good that we're always have these types of conversations, because
Mhm.
you never know who's getting into the hobby now and where we can help. So, Azor was talking about pizza, starting to get hungry here. Chamorro Cinema on your left. What's up, brother? Station. Thanks for stopping in. All right, so let's get. I know we're hitting that hour mark, but I want to hit you with some rapid questions. This has been so much fun, Hyper. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us right now. We got 20 people in here. Make sure you guys are subbed up to Hyper.Combo.Comics, and you follow him over on Instagram. I put all his information in the description below. And if you're new here, make sure you sub me up as well. Hit that thumbs up while you're at it. We do appreciate that, as it always helps out the channel. So let's get into some rapid questions, and then we'll kind of close things out. If you have anything coming up, you can talk a little bit about that, and then we'll wrap it up here. So first and foremost, if you had to choose just one character to be your favorite, who is your favorite character of all time?
Favorite character of all time, Wolverine.
Okay,
Wolverine,
nice.
because he's always seems like, because of his size and all that. Even though he has like the adamantine, I always find like he's like the grunt or the underdog of the X-Men, and
Yeah,
he always to pull things through. So Wolverine,
heck yeah. Plus, he's part of that book of yours that you were showing off, so that's
and he's Canadian also.
ties
Yeah,
in. And there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Who's your favorite comic book artist of all time?
Jim Lee.
Well,
Um,
there you
that's
go.
that was an easy one.
Another easy one. I love it. What about villain? I always talk about superheroes, like the good guys. What about the bad guys? Favorite villain of all time?
Ooh, favorite villain. Um, I would say, you know what, Joker.
Oh yeah, can't
Joker.
go wrong there, man. I'm with you.
Even though I'm more Marvel, but Joker's just been a thorn on Batman's side, and and every actor that's played him in the movie, except for not Heath Ledger, sorry, except for Jared Leto, I kind of liked.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there you go. No, I love that character, man. He really makes. I mean, he complements the Batman in so many ways. What about if you could have one superpower? What would that be?
I mentioned this on Roger and the Cranky Canadian. It would be reading people's mind, because I tend to put my foot in my mouth when I say certain things. So sometimes it's nice to know if when you you're able to read the room a bit, and then you can kind of say the more appropriate things to kind of, yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
Fit the conversation a little more. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that, man. That's great. That's
But but
great.
but but like I told Roger, I don't want to read people's mind 24/7 because there's certain stuff that maybe after hours I don't want to
You don't
really.
want to know.
I
Yeah,
don't
no.
want to dive in. Like, so probably during the daytime reading the mind.
There you go. I like that. Put a limit on it. Let's see. What about your favorite superhero film of all time?
Oof. You know what? Just based on the number of times it's been played back for me, I would say Dark Knight. I would say Dark Knight
Oh, hell
is
yeah.
probably, yeah.
I've definitely had that movie on replay several times, even just in the background while I'm cleaning or something. You could just jump
Yeah.
into that movie anytime.
So many memorable lines in that movie also.
Oh yeah, yep,
Yeah.
for sure, classic stuff. Um, let's see if I don't know where you stand with this, but I have a hint towards where you stand with this. But if you had to choose as your favorite X-Men team, do you prefer the original X-Men team or the new X-Men team from Chris Claremont?
The new one.
New,
The
right?
new.
Okay, I was leaning towards that, especially because as you mentioned Wolverine,
Yeah.
some of the things that got you into it. If you could go back in time, and I mean literal time travel,
Mhm.
and buy any one comic book for cover price off the shelf that you could never sell in your entire life, it's just for you to keep. What would
Mhm.
that one comic book be if you could go back in time and buy?
I mean, I know some people are probably gonna say AF-15 or Action 1, but I think those are kind of easy answers. I'm gonna go with my ultimate grail, which I will eventually get. It's Hulk 181.
Ooh, yeah, that's a beauty. That's a big book, man.
Yeah, that's a big boy
Um,
book.
for sure, for sure. Do some trading up for that one.
That's my that's what you would call like the mac and cheese book.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I love that, man. You guys heard it here first, the mac and cheese book. Yeah, dude, you definitely got to put yourself on a limit for a while if you're going in that direction. All right, good stuff. I like that too. Let me see. I have any other comic book related stuff for you? I'm gonna mix it up now because I always like to ask my guests a few non comic book related things just to kind of get to know a little bit more about you as well. So,
Sure.
first and foremost, are you a sports guy? And if you are, who's your favorite team and what's your favorite sports?
Well, I mean, being from Canada, like hockey's always been. I don't. I mean, I haven't really followed team sports as much. I mean, right now, I think the sport that I tend to follow more regularly is MMA, Ultimate Fight, like
Oh yeah,
UFC, because I kind of got
that counts.
I kind of got involved in kickboxing myself, so I kind of got an
Oh,
appreciation
nice.
for it. And my favorite athlete is George St. Pierre, who was also Batroc the Leaper and Falcon in the Winter Soldier. So
Oh, dope,
yeah,
dope. I love it,
and
man.
hockey would be, I guess, my second, just being Canadian, and the Maple Leafs are my
Nice,
team for that.
nice.
And Raptors, Raptors, got to shout out the Raptors.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Of course, of course. Cool, man. So it seems like you're kind of all over the place with that, and or dipping your feet in a couple different things there. So, I love that you bring up MMA because I feel like we haven't really had anyone talk too much about that, especially as as a sport, because that certainly is a sport.
Mm,
So yeah, that's I feel like that industry has just grown so much over the past
yes, yeah.
few years. All right, next question for you is where do you stand with music? What's your favorite genre, and who's your favorite artist or band?
Ooh, I don't know if I could. I give you a couple of favorite. I don't know if I actually have one particular favorite artist. I mean, my favorite genre is hip hop, but I
Okay.
like pretty much almost any genre. For me, it's very much like, it sounds cliche, but I kind of pop the music based on whatever I'm feeling, like the mood.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
when I'm working out, like, like more that stiffer rap and like, metal and all that stuff. And then sometimes on a drive, I'll pick something a bit more mellow. In terms of artists, I like some of the old school guys like KRS,
Hmm.
KRS-One, a lot of the guys from Def Jam like Method Man, Bedman.
Oh hell
Uh,
yeah, the classics
yeah,
right there, man. They paved the
yeah,
way for so many people.
and recently passed deceased DMX.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, it's hard for me to actually pin one particular artist that I'm
Yeah, no, that's fair.
yeah,
That's fair. It's always a tough question because obviously
yeah,
we listen to so many things, especially as we go through life. So it's something that changes all the time, I'm sure. But good to know where you kind of stand, and that you do open yourself up to everything. Is like you said, it's kind of a mood thing, and depending what you do or what your environment's like at the time. I'm the same way. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like comics, where I feel like there's good music in every genre. Like I'm open to
Yeah,
reading a lot of things, just like comics. So I think that's
exactly.
well said. Climbing Comics says Sharks fan here, but I like the Leafs too. Got my dudes Marlowe and Thornton. There you go.
And Marlowe played for the Leafs, so yeah. But I think he's back with the Sharks now. So
Mm. We got my man Steve, Hip Hops and Me, Team Nerd Herd representing. What's going on, Steve? Thanks for
what's up,
stopping in,
Steve?
brother. I also want to say a quick hello to Harsh Life. I saw him jump in here earlier as well. Appreciate you, man. Let's see. I just lost my list here. If you could vacation anywhere in the world, obviously in a safe, non-pandemic world, for free, and you could take family or friends or whoever you want with you for a week, what would that one vacation spot be?
You know what? Probably Japan. Just because I like I like a lot of the Japanese influence. I like, especially in the gaming side and all that. I feel like it's
Oh
like the
yeah,
Mecca, especially, and it just seems like a cool city to visit. In general, it's
totally.
just that I feel like there's a lot of geekdom and all that I'd probably like nerd over when I go to Japan, and just like the city itself, just like seems like a nice city to kind of you know to check out.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. That would be dope to visit, uh, and even just for sightseeing purposes. But yeah, I mean, you could totally nerd out over there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, what about I just had one that I want. What's your favorite non-comic book related film of all time? It's a tough one.
Oh no, that's actually an easy one for me.
Oh, all right.
Uh,
What is it?
yeah, I always say that this should have won an Oscar, but I joke when I say it. It's Rush Hour 1, because I
Oh
would
my
say
gosh.
Rush Hour 1 is probably one of my favorite, and probably and it's on Netflix actually in Canada right now. But that's a film that I will never get tired of watching. That's yeah,
Dude. Can
it's my like I'm sorry if you're expecting something like Schindler's List or something like that, but for
no,
me,
no.
Rush Hour 1 is the epicenter for me in terms of top movie.
Dude, I don't know if you saw, I just shared on my story a couple days ago, or last weekend actually. So my girlfriend she never saw any of the Rush Hour films up
Oh,
until
dude.
a month ago. A month ago.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
literally this past month we've watched all three Rush Hour films. Literally, we just finished Rush Hour 3 last weekend. So it's I'm laughing because it's hysterical that you bring that up, because that's how I expressed it to her when she said I never watched those movies. I was like, what? Like we're watching them. We have to watch, because I grew up with the Rush Hour stuff. I love everything about them, and for its time, like it's just some of the best stuff. So there
I
you
don't know if
go.
you're I don't know if you're aware of this, but they tried to do a TV series of Rush Hour with two different actors. Listen, to me,
Oh no, I
if
didn't
it
know
ain't
that.
if it ain't Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan,
Right.
I like to say I'm open-minded, but it's hard for me to get behind something where you don't have the two guys on board for that project.
Agreed. No, you're right. They make them. They absolutely make those films. So very, very funny, man. I have to say, I love the pick. I love the pick because I'm definitely a fan of that stuff. And it's just funny because we literally were just watching it. I guess I don't know
Nice.
if my girlfriend's in the chat right now, but she'll laugh if she sees this later. Okay, last question for you, and this is one I kind of like to close out with before we wrap things up here. Is when it comes to a Friday night dinner, anything of your choice, whether you are going out to eat, you're ordering in, or you're cooking, what is your go-to number one meal of all time?
Um, I would say nothing beats a good burger.
Nice.
Like
I'm with you
a
there.
nice good burger with all the trimmings, and have some what do you call it, potato wedges or something like that on the side,
Hell
and
yeah.
all the works. Like not that little itty bitty burger. I want something where basically I might have to use a fork and knife to cut,
To cut
because
his dive in. Yeah.
basically I almost need to retract my jaw like a python to kind of chomp into that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that dude, I'm with you there. Do you like to grill at home, or is it more you like to order when you're out?
No, I do a bit of both. I tend to prefer eating at home just because I guess I've just been trying to be a bit more careful on what I'm eating, especially
Sure.
and you kind of hear sometimes, I think it's no secret. You sometimes hear like horror stories or something about stuff not being prepped
Yeah.
right and all that. So
Yeah.
as much as possible, I tend to eat at home, but obviously I do like to enjoy the night out with friends and all that, and I'll eat out occasionally here and there. But for the most part, I'd rather prefer cooking at home.
Nice. I dig it. Yeah, something about for me with
I
uh
gotta highlight
like,
this cereal. That's not
oh
really
yeah.
a meal, but I have been known to be a cereal fiend. I'm almost like Jerry Seinfeld. I do I actually have cereal boxes in my room. Actually, I do. Yeah. So
I love it.
yeah,
Um we had some rush hour discussions here as well. Damn, got to go back and watch those films now. Yeah, yeah. I'm a fan of when it comes to burgers and stuff to be able to go out in my backyard and throw some on the grill, have a beer, during the summertime, like that kind of vibe. I love that stuff. So,
for sure, man, for sure.
um, well said. And with all this talk, I always mention this. I always get very hungry right towards the end of my show for some reason, and
I'm well. I'm having burger tonight. I'm having elk burger. If anyone's never tried
oh,
elk burger, definitely give it a shot. It's a
oh,
lot
nice.
more. Uh, it's a bit more leaner, but it's a different taste. So
Okay.
yeah, elk.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. We got Matt Woods in the house. Thanks for stopping in, Matt. Appreciate you, brother. We also got my man Dave in the house. Kachung made the stream. Yeah, man. Appreciate you stopping in. And we also got Michelle who's swinging by. Says she'll catch the replay later. Absolutely. Thanks for hanging
Another
out.
person, another person who I just met recently, like a few weeks ago in the community. So yeah, appreciate
Oh,
you coming.
awesome. Michelle's awesome. Very cool. Everybody here in the chat, if you're not connected with Hyper or Hyper, if you're not connected with them, highly recommend because there's some really good people here. We got 19 people still hanging out with us now. Appreciate all you guys taking that time. Make sure that you are subbed up to Hyper. Information is in the link description below. Hit that thumbs up as well. And so those are my questions, man. I've loved this time talking with you,
Yeah,
bro. And
man,
we
it's
definitely
been
gotta
fun.
heck yeah, we have to collaborate some more, man, because this has just
Oh,
been a blast.
this is just the beginning, man. This is just the beginning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. Absolutely. So,
And
with that being said, feel free to let the people know where they can find you and let us know a little bit about where we can, what you have coming up.
okay, so you could find me on my IG. The handle's right there, Hyper.Combo.Comics. I try to post on a frequently regular basis on there, and on my IG you'll find the link to my YouTube channel. And the running joke is that I currently have still two comic book related videos, and the plan is to eventually do more, but I'll keep you guys posted when that happens. My YouTube appearance is more frequently on Newbie Comics channel. There we do a show on Sundays where we do a new comic book day and spec talk. And on Tuesday we do like different theme shows. So this coming Tuesday we're doing, I believe, a show on the hottest comics of April, and we're looking back on those comics and how they're doing right now. So that's this coming Tuesday. And Friday I'll be defending my comic TV title on Tony Sanders' YouTube channel. Basically, I square up three of my books against my opponent's books, and the chat votes. And this will be my third title defense. And Justin, you've been in the chat before, so you know what that show is like.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, that'll be this Friday. I'll be defending my title. And other than that, yeah, man. Oh, and this Monday, sorry, I have to mention, I'm doing a spin-off show with FaceTime, who's also part of the newbie crew. That'll be Monday, this coming Monday. We haven't figured out a time yet, but we'll keep you posted on that as well.
Nice.
So,
Oh,
so
looking
yeah, man.
forward to it, man.
Yeah.
A busy guy, busy guy. I love all the content you're putting out there, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Especially everything that you,
Thanks, man.
Newbie and Face, are doing. You guys are truly helping out the community. I wanted to highlight what Dave said before too about you guys. I mean, I learned so much hearing all the different things you guys talk about all the time. I love the different approaches that you guys go at this hobby. And you also each bring kind of your own opinions to the table, which also is refreshing. To kind of hear some different takes on certain things. So, yeah, love everything that you're doing here. Fuzzy said, very interesting, great job. My first show will definitely come back again. Yeah, man, appreciate you stopping in. Everybody who's hanging out with us right now today, really do appreciate you. If you're catching this replay, talking to you right now, the person watching the replay, thanks for taking that time to watch this. Make sure you guys are subbed up to Hyper And again, appreciate everybody just hanging out with us, getting a lot of good feedback here.
I want to give you props myself. Listen, we like you said, we've been kicking it for like a year or so, and I was even honored that you even considered me having me as a guest, considering the caliber of guests you've had in the past. So I was like, oh shoot, okay, yeah, now
Heck yeah,
it's all,
man.
it felt like you had a good strong. You've had a lot of good strong acts, so I was like, I got to follow up this. So it's like it's just great that you had me on, man, and you've always been one of the most positive dudes in the community. I mean, I don't think I've heard anyone say anything but positive things about you, and just based on our interactions, it fits the bill, man.
Oh man.
You're an asset to this community, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Wow,
Yeah,
man. That means so much to me, man. I really appreciate those kind words. And yeah, dude, I mean, this community is what it's all about for me, man. I just love it. And there is no level of whatever when it comes to my guests. Like I love to just have anyone who I know I'm going to get along with and have a good time and talk, comics with, that's special to me. So you are right up there with the best of them. You really are. So
appreciate it, man.
again, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So man, getting all teary-eyed here. Appreciate that, man. I really do. It really means a lot to hear that kind of stuff, dude.
Yeah,
It really does. I love this community so much. I put so much into this stuff and really try to bring people together in the ways that I think I can, and try to discover new accounts and new people along the way. So you're a big part of that, and I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, like I said, for your channel and Instagram, and just being you, man. You just keep being you.
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I will happily say bad things about Justin if you want. There you go. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Justin's the man. Still. Oh man. So Michael, thank you, man. Appreciate that. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up here. I actually am going to have I'll be over on read Across the Stars, Victoria, her channel. We're talking about Daredevil, Chip Zdarsky's issues 1 through 10.
That's another run.
That's another
run. That's good. Yeah, it's a good run.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And I just reread some of it, and I'm just like, oh, I forgot like how good some of this stuff really is. So looking forward to that. So I'll be over there. And then of course, we'll be back again next week, same time, 2:00. So we'll get that all prepped up. But again, if you guys are not following Hyper, make sure you do that. Information is down below. If you are in the chat right now, appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us today. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for taking that time to watch the replay. Hit that thumbs up on your way out, and we will talk to you guys later.